If you're looking to do some major decluttering, this is the video for you. Today, I'm going to take you around my house to show you 100 different ideas of things that you can declutter. Since we have 100 things to talk about, I'm going to try to keep this pretty efficient. However, 2 quick disclaimers before we begin. Number 1, this is an idea list. This doesn't mean, hey, you should declutter all these things. Make sure it reflects your lifestyle. I don't want you to declutter something that you'll regret later. A great suggestion would be try for 5 to 10 of the items I mentioned in these videos. I'd love for you to have a quick win and maybe you even declutter them after you finish watching. We all live different lifestyles, so make sure that you are doing what's best for you. The second disclaimer is that I'm going to be holding up different items based upon what I'm talking about, but it doesn't mean I'm actually getting rid of those items. For instance, I'm going to talk about getting rid of extra coats here for my first one, and I'm going to hold up my coat. I'm not getting rid of my coat. That's my one winter coat that I love. Throughout the last 4 years of practicing a minimalist lifestyle, I've gotten rid of so much. So these 100 items are things that over time I have let go of, and I think you might be able to as well. Let's jump in. First up, coats. How many do you actually need? Declutter the extra ones. Do you have any shoes that you never wear? Or shoes that are just really uncomfortable so you don't want to wear them? Let's let those go. If you have any purses you don't use, consider letting those go. And with your everyday purse, if you've got any extra clutter or garbage inside. Do you have any broken sunglasses? Maybe you have some old membership cards or even unused gift cards that haven't been used yet. Use them up, pass them on, or just get rid of them. Maybe you have old backpacks that aren't being used, or even too many reusable bags. Stick to the number that you actually need and keep the best ones. If you order a lot online, you might have a lot of extra boxes or packaging materials that you won't actually be using. So consider recycling them or letting them go. Also, do you happen to have the infamous bag of bags where you've just got maybe one plastic bag holding other ones? That takes up a lot of space, and are you actually using them? If not, a lot of stores actually take those back for recycling. If you have extra outerwear that you're not using, such as hats and gloves and mittens, maybe consider letting those go, especially if you maybe had kids and they've grown up and you have these little kid cozy items. Definitely great candidates to donate, especially at this time of year. And before we move on to the next part of the house, I do keep tools in this front cabinet here, so if you've got duplicates of any tools, just keep your favorite. Let's keep moving. Moving on, here we are at our bookshelf as well as our everyday command center where we keep a lot of our everyday essential items. From a book perspective, get rid of books that you haven't ever read that you don't realistically intend on reading. Sometimes our ideal selves hold on to more books than we actually need. You can also get rid of books that you have read but realistically won't read again. And it's especially fun to re-gift books that you've enjoyed to others who you think might like them as well. We also keep our photos here. So this is a reminder if you've got any duplicate photos or photos that aren't very good to focus on getting rid of those. If you have any knickknacks on your surfaces that you don't actually like, you've just had them, consider letting them go. Make sure what you do have is significant to you. If you have writing utensils that no longer work or writing utensils that don't get used anymore, those would be great candidates to let go of. And lastly, if you've got furniture that's being used exclusively as storage, really question if you still need that piece of furniture because it might be a clutter trap. And a clean surface is a great starting point, so any extra clutter that doesn't actually need to be on the surface or doesn't serve a purpose for you, let's clean that off. There's not much to see here in the living room, but do you have any decorations that collect more dust than joy? If so, maybe it's time to let them go, as well as any furniture that doesn't really align with your vision for your space. Now, to be honest, this one's tricky because I don't love this couch. I don't love the color scheme of this couch, but we are not in the financial place to go buy a new couch just for the sake of getting a new couch because this one technically works perfectly fine. So of course it doesn't mean go out, spend a bunch of money to have more of a minimalist look, but it's just what makes sense for you. If you are in the market for purchasing something, make sure that it does align with your vision for the space. And of course, if you have items that are perpetually on your coffee table, do they need to be there? You might enjoy having that clear space. Next, let's head over to the media center. Now we're over here by the media center, which is still in our living room, but this is just where you might have entertainment clutter. For instance, do you have any remotes that you're not actually using or that are from a past device or TV or something like that? Also, if you have any media services or subscriptions that you're not actually using fully or getting your money's worth, see if you can cut anything to save money. Do you actually have any media that you can't actually play or use? For instance, if you've got a lot of CDs but you don't have a CD player or a device that will play CDs, or even VHS tapes if you don't have a VCR. These can be no-brainers of something to let go of. Also consider how you consume media. If you predominantly only use streaming services, then you probably don't need physical DVDs and CDs as much. Also, if you have any DVDs that you won't be watching again, you can probably let go of those too. Are you the type who has too many planners or notebooks? Maybe these are things you can declutter if they're not actually useful to you. If you've recently upgraded any of your phones, tablets, or other devices, do you still have the old one at home, unused? Consider trading that in, recycling it, even selling it. That would be a much better option than hanging out in your house. Likewise, any old chargers that no longer work or you don't have the device for, let's let those go too. Do you have any of those mystery cables where you don't really know what they even do? If you don't know, you're not going to miraculously find it out one day if it was actually needed. So let's let these go too. And lastly, since I do have some paper products here, if you've got any extra post-it notes, notepads, promotional notepads that you're not actually going to be using, consider donating those or recycling them. Now let's move on to the dining room. Now we're here in the dining room. First up, do you have any table linens that you don't actually use much anymore? As well as if you have any seasonal dishware that maybe only gets used once a year. Is it really worth the storage space to use those items just once when maybe you could just use your everyday plates and everyday essentials anyway? Now, sometimes dining rooms can be places where there's extra clutter stored, and that might be random stuff that just doesn't really have a home, that needs a place to go. It just maybe piled up in the corner of a dining room. So see if you've got any of that to go through, as well as if you've got any furniture sometimes that can be a clutter trap, such as a china cabinet. If you actually love it and get value out of it, that's amazing. But what if you don't? All right, now we're in the kitchen. First of all, do you have any items that you don't know what they are in the back of your fridge or freezer? Or maybe you do know what they are, but they're definitely not good to eat anymore. Let's have a nice fridge freezer clean out so you've got a fresh start for yourself. Also, why not keep the front of the fridge as simple as possible and declutter some of the extra magnets or papers that are on the fridge? If there's any food that you tried but didn't actually like and don't actually see yourself eating, let's get rid of that. Likewise, if you've got any food that maybe tastes really good but makes you feel terrible, is it worth keeping that food around? Maybe you feel like you've got too many glass jars. I went through a phase where I was just saving all these jars and it was just too much. Do you have more kitchen towels than you need or even more cleaning products? Chances are you don't actually need as much as you might think. Maybe you have old sponges that should be disposed of or sanitized. And pro tip, cut your sponges in half to allow them to stay newer longer, basically having twice as many sponges. Maybe you have some of those promotional water bottles or travel mugs. Do you actually enjoy using those? I find sometimes they're not the best quality. Maybe you have extra mugs or dishware that you don't actually need, or you have more than is realistic for your family. Do you have any of those single-use gadgets that could be replaced with something that's multi-purpose? Maybe there's extra appliances that you don't really use or need. Another great example of something to declutter would be cookbooks if you don't really actually look at them. And before we actually switch to the other side of the kitchen, we were really lucky to have more cabinet space than we actually needed. So we actually use one of our drawers here to store blank greeting cards. So they're very convenient for us to access and give to people when it's time. That being said, it's really important to go through to make sure you're not holding on to too many blank greeting cards that will probably never be used, as well as if you've got a lot of cards you're saving from other people, but they don't really have much sentimental value or much significance in that card, maybe you can recycle that. Do you have any food storage containers that maybe don't have matching lids anymore or have become damaged over time? Maybe these are things you can let go of. This next one is a little silly, but if you found yourself holding on to something or even saving something without actually thinking about it, you might have more than you actually need. For us, we realized we were saving these little protein powder scoops. I don't know why though. My husband, Jake, goes through 1 or 2 tubs of protein powder each month. And when you break that down, that's a lot of these scoops. And we definitely don't need, we had 4 that we were stashing aside. Why? I don't know why. So we're going to be getting rid of these. Other kitchen items to declutter could be extra bakeware if you're not actually using that to make baked goods, as well as if you've got single-use kitchen items. Don't necessarily get rid of what you have, but maybe consider if there are more reusable options that you can purchase in the future to prevent you from having as many single-use items around your space. If you have any extra or duplicate utensils, maybe you can get rid of those. If you've got any spices you don't use, maybe you can get rid of those, or at least try it out with a new recipe and maybe you'll actually like them. As well as if you've got any damaged cookware. A common example of this is nonstick pans, and if that nonstick coating has been scratched up, there could be health risks, so definitely something to take a closer look with. That was 23 items from the kitchen, but let's keep the fun going over to the laundry room. Moving on to the laundry room, definitely not a glamorous space, but there can still be some clutter that's hiding around here. First of all, do you have any empty bottles of detergent or just miscellaneous things that are basically all out? Let's use them up, finish them up, get them out of the space, and consolidate products in the future if possible. If you've got any mismatched socks where you don't know where the other one went, go ahead and either let them go, or you can actually turn them into easy cleaning rags or dusting rags, because you can put your hand inside and wipe things down. If your laundry room's kind of a tight space and you've got other clutter that's hanging out there, why not try to find an alternative place? Or maybe it makes sense, like we've got these cabinets up here. We don't really need much space for laundry, so we actually store extra painting essentials and paint up here. But if you have any old paint cans in your space and you don't have that color on the wall anymore, or it's been years and the paint may not be the same quality, why not let it go, as well as any other products that have not been used in so long that they may be past their prime as well. Sometimes these home-related products, they work great for a while, but then if you don't use them for 5 years, even 10 years or more, the quality of the product may be compromised and you wouldn't want to use it for something serious anyway. That was quick. Now let's go to the bedroom. We are now in the bedroom, and one easy thing that you can let go of here is extra sheets. We find 2 sets of sheets is helpful, one for on the bed and one that can be like in the dirty clothes or waiting to be cleaned. Maybe you can let go of some extra ones. Extra pillows also are something you can let go of. We each use 2, one to actually sleep with, and the other one is nice to prop yourself up while you're reading in bed or something like that. We also like keeping extra technology out of the bedroom. We just use a regular alarm clock and don't actually keep phones here. As with many areas in your space, having clutter-free surfaces is wonderful, especially when it comes to your nightstand or maybe if you've got dressers in your rooms as well. Speaking of dressers, I want to show you a few things that I have in mind. If you have any socks that are really on their last legs, they are great options to let go of. And a pro tip in the future is to just buy the same type of sock, and then you can keep cycling things through. As some get holes in it, you already have replacements for them, and it just makes it a little bit easier. Another category of item to declutter could be activewear. Unfortunately, a lot of people have the intention of getting healthy and they give themselves the tools that they need to make healthier choices, but sometimes we get in our own way and you might have more activewear than you think. Maybe you have extra pajamas. I know sometimes for me, if a shirt has gotten demoted to pajamas, if I'm no longer wearing it out and about, then it becomes pajamas, but do you actually need those extra pajamas? Sometimes we are holding on to way more than we'd actually ever wear. Likewise, if you've got extra underwear that you're not really using or is not very comfortable, or maybe is just super worn out, you could let go of those as well. Moving on to the closet, if you've got duplicate clothing items, I used to have a lot of pairs of jeans when I realized I could just have 1 or maybe even 2 of my absolute favorite pairs and wear those all the time. So I just keep 1 pair of jeans. Another thing to let go of is if you've got clothing from your past that you don't wear anymore, or maybe it's not in style anymore. Sure, sometimes styles come back in, but let's be honest, are you actually going to wear them? If you've got clothing that honestly doesn't fit you, especially if it's a large difference, there's probably no need to hold on to it. If you've got any formal dresses you no longer wear, those can be something to donate. If you've got any clothing that doesn't make you feel good or makes you feel less confident about yourself, get rid of that stuff right away. If you've got fantasy self-clothing, meaning clothing that is more for an ideal version of yourself or a different version of yourself than you actually are, and you can figure that out by actually putting it to the test and wearing that in real life. Of course, if you've got extra hangers, get rid of those. And then in addition to clothing, we do keep a few extra items here. Up top there are some of our travel backpacks. So if you've got any extra suitcases or travel essentials that you don't actually use anymore or don't need, let's get rid of those, as well as if you've got extra organizing equipment. Sometimes organizers actually lead us to hold on to more clutter than we need. If you have any extra accessories like jewelry or scarves, you could let go of those as well. In this space, we also keep some of our sentimental items. We each have a plastic tub here in the back. I don't know if you can see that. So we've got those. Maybe if you've got way more than you can handle, that would be a great candidate of something to simplify, as well as we keep some basic gift wrap here. Although we don't do a lot with traditional gifting, we do keep some essentials just so I'm not having to purchase those things every year. Next up, the bathroom. Moving on to the bathroom, if you have any old medication that is expired or no longer necessary from maybe an old prescription or something, go ahead and dispose of that responsibly and get it out of your space. If you have any makeup you don't use or that is not the right color for you, consider letting that go, as well as any products you bought but it's not actually working the way it was supposed to or that you thought it would. Maybe you have extra towels. In our household, we find that 3 is a great number per person. Take a closer look at what's actually in your shower. Do you actually need to use all of those products, or do you actually use all those products? You may have a cluttered shower for no reason, so remove those other products from there that you're not using. If you've got any of those partially used travel size containers, just use them up so you can get them out of your space. And if you have any fancy spa type products or self-care type products that you haven't actually used, use them or get rid of them. We are almost done here, just one room left. That is our office. Let's go. All right, we are now in the office, which is the final space of our house. It's also like a second bedroom studio, and kind of in the meantime, it's one of our main storage areas in the home. So definitely a little bit more cluttered than some of our other spaces, but it is what it is. First of all, declutter any paper records that you can that have digital account options. These days, many paper records are also available digitally, and that can reduce the amount of paper you have to store in your home. Perhaps you have extra school supplies that you never use. You could consider letting those go. This is sort of random, but if you've got exercise equipment you're not using, I do enjoy using this medicine ball, but some people have exercise equipment they don't use anymore, and you could let it go. Now, unless you're a curriculum developer like me, you can probably let go of old textbooks if you're not looking back at them, as well as any notes that maybe have gone along with them. 2 other sort of random items to let go of could include old calendars, as well as picture frames, if you're not using them or if you don't really stop and take the time to look at them, or at least what's in the frame. Finally, this is going to vary a lot, but since we are in the office, I thought it made sense to talk about any distraction items, items that distract you from your main purpose or your main goals. Let those go, or at least reduce the amount of time you're spending using those items. That wraps up this list of 100 items to declutter, but I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What did I mention today that you'll be able to declutter from your space? And if you haven't already subscribed to Abundantly Minimal, do so up here. I post 1 video a week to help you live your best life with less, and some of those other videos are right here. We'll see you next time. Bye.